Imagine a city where, the most powerful person in the country, like the prime minister, the president, or even a literal king, is legally and spiritually forbidden from spending the night.
Right. Just completely banned from staying over.
Yeah, exactly. And if they do, local law and these centuries of deeply held belief state that they will just lose all of their power.
Which sounds, like a myth from a fantasy novel or
It
something.
really does. But that is a very real, very strictly enforced reality in the ancient city of Ujjain today. So welcome in.
Glad to be here.
If you are joining us right now, it's probably because you have an appetite for those rare subjects that, completely bend how you view the world.
Oh, for sure. And today's topic definitely fits that bill.
It really does. Today, we're going to dive into a document that does exactly that. It's this dense, brilliant research text simply titled Mahakal Ujjain Research Report.pdf.
A very straightforward title for a very complex report.
Right. And our mission for this deep dive is to explore how one single geographic location, historically known as Avantika, acts as this mind-bending intersection of high-level astronomy, terrifying mythology, the visceral reality of death, and modern-day earthly politics.
It's a lot to cover.
It is a lot. Okay,
Okay.
let's unpack this. Because to understand this political taboo, we really have to understand the literal ground it happens on.
Yeah, we really do have to begin with the literal foundation. I mean, the text makes it very clear right from the start, Ujjain is not merely a temple site.
No, not at all.
For millennia, it has been considered the metaphysical navel of the earth. And that is the foundational premise we have to grasp before we look at the deity worship there or the rituals or the politics.
Right.
It is considered the absolute center point of the universe's energy.
I was actually trying to wrap my head around that when reading the sources. When we say center point, we aren't just talking about a poetic metaphor.
Oh, not at all.
Because the geography actually dictates the spirituality here. Like, there is hard math involved in this.
Precisely. Long before Greenwich, England was established as the global standard for timekeeping. Ancient Indian astronomers considered Ujjain to be the prime meridian.
Which is just wild to think about.
Right. The source actually calls it the zero meridian of spirit. The Mahakal temple is believed to sit at the exact mathematical and spiritual coordinate where the Tropic of Cancer intersects with the Earth's spiritual axis.
Think about the mechanics of that for a second. We are talking about ancient civilizations thousands of years before satellite mapping or, modern telescopes.
Exactly.
And they are calculating the exact trajectory of the sun, identifying the precise line of latitude where the sun sits directly overhead during the summer solstice.
Yeah, the sheer observational science is staggering.
And they didn't just mark it on a map either. They decided this incredibly precise mathematical coordinate was the balancing point of human existence.
Right.
To me, it's like finding the exact microscopic point of gravity to balance a spinning top perfectly on the head of a needle. It's the crosshairs of a cosmic GPS.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. I mean, it is a flawless alignment of observational science and profound mysticism.
Yeah.
And that alignment is recognized by the natural world as well, according to the lore. The report details the legend of the local Shipper River, which flows right through Ujjain.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Because reading about the Shipper River totally shifted how I viewed this landscape.
It's a beautiful detail.
It really is. The legend says that this river didn't just form from glacial runoff or whatever. It actually risks directly from the heart of the god Vishnu.
Yeah, the imagery the source uses there is striking.
It says the waters intentionally slow down as they pass through Ujjain, just to pay homage to the deity of the city, Mahakal.
I love that.
It's as if the landscape itself, like the rushing water, is holding its breath out of sheer reverence.
What's fascinating here is how ancient texts capture this dual nature of Ujjain, this blend of the scientific and the sacred.
You're right, because they didn't separate the two.
Exactly. In the Megadutam, which is a classical masterpiece by the great poet Kalidasa, we see this incredible synthesis.
Yeah, Kalidasa's work is heavily referenced in the report.
And he doesn't just describe a beautiful temple, He captures a city that is simultaneously a hub for highly advanced astronomical calculation and the ultimate destination for spiritual liberation.
Because back then, science and spirituality weren't compartmentalized.
Right. They were just two different languages being used to describe the exact same cosmic center.
And if you have a location that serves as the absolute fulcrum of the universe, the entity that guards it has to be immensely powerful.
Oh, absolutely.
You wouldn't put some minor guardian at the center of the cosmos, which means we have to talk about who resides there.
We do.
The sources refer to this deity as Mahakal. And looking at the translation of that name, it sets a very intense tone.
It absolutely does. To understand Mahakal, we really have to look at the Sanskrit root.
Right, the word kala.
Yeah, Kali. It carries a dual meaning. It translates to both time and death. Therefore, Mahakal is the great time. He is the force that consumes absolutely everything in the universe, yet he is also the entity that transcends all of it.
He's what's left behind.
Exactly. He is the time that remains when time itself completely runs out.
The story of how this force actually arrived in Ujjain feels less like a religious text and more like an epic, cataclysmic movie scene.
It really does read like a blockbuster.
Yeah. The source pulls this narrative from the Shiva Purana, specifically a section called the Jyotirlinga Samhita, and it centers around a demon named Dushana.
It is a staggering narrative. So picture a holy, thriving city suddenly plunged into absolute chaos.
Right.
According to the text, this powerful demon, Dushana, and his massive army sweep in, violently terrorizing the righteous citizens of Avantika.
Just a total nightmare scenario for these people.
Utter nightmare. They are desecrating the holy sites, disrupting the Vedic rituals, and essentially trying to plunge the intellectual center of the world into an age of darkness and ignorance.
But the local devotees don't react the way you would expect them to.
No, they don't.
There is this local Brahmin named Vedapriya. And when Dushana's warlords are literally marching on them, bearing down with weapons, Vedapriya and his followers don't fight back.
Right. They don't barricade the doors or anything.
They don't even try to run away. They just sit down in the dirt, close their eyes, and meditate on Shiva.
And that act of pure, unshakable devotion triggers a cataclysmic divine response.
The manifestation.
Yeah. The text says the earth violently split wide open right where they were sitting. And from that massive chasm, Shiva manifested in his most terrifying, overwhelming form imaginable. Right.
The sensory details in the document here gave me chills. It specifically notes that his radiance was so blinding, so absolute, that the demon's shadow couldn't even touch the holy soil.
That's such a powerful image.
And he doesn't lift a sword, right? He doesn't engage in hand-to-hand combat at all.
He doesn't need to.
He just lets out a single earth-shattering roar. The text calls it the Hankara, and that sound alone reduces Dushana and his entire legion to a pile of ashes instantly.
It is the ultimate unfiltered display of destructive power. Yeah.
Which is exactly why the gods and the citizens begged him to stay. They asked him to reside there eternally as a Jyotirlinga, a pillar of cosmic light, to protect the world from the darkness of ignorance and, from premature death.
Wait, if this deity is the literal embodiment of destruction, death, and time running out, why do millions of people flock there?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm stuck on this. Let me push back on this for you, the listener, because there is a massive paradox at the center of this. Human nature is to run away from death, to ignore our mortality completely.
Of course it is.
Doesn't worshiping a god of death cause more anxiety for you? It feels like it would just give you debilitating anxiety.
It is a profound paradox, but honestly, it's the core of the entire philosophy.
How so?
Well, the research report addresses this beautifully through the concept of jnana, or wisdom. The text argues that worshiping Mahakal does not invite death.
Okay.
It actually removes the fear of akala mrityu, which translates to untimely or unnatural death. So by forcing yourself to stare directly at the thing that terrifies you most, you somehow disarm it.
Exactly. It's about achieving a total, radical surrender to the inevitable cycles of the universe. Philosophically, Mahakal represents the fourth state of consciousness, known as Turiya.
Break Turiya down for us, because that sounds very abstract. What does it actually mean to experience that state?
Okay, so imagine standing waist-deep in a violently rushing river.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
That river is time, the past, the present, the future, and it is all flowing by in a chaotic, freezing blur.
Right.
Normally, we spend our entire lives thrashing around in that water, desperately trying to swim upstream, drowning in our anxieties about what has happened and what will happen tomorrow.
Yeah, that's just everyday life for most of us.
Exactly. But the state of Turiya is the act of pulling yourself out of the water and standing on the solid, unmoving bank.
Oh, wow.
You become the calm, unchanging witness to the flow of time. You watch the dissolution of things without being destroyed by them.
So instead of thrashing in the rapids of Monday mornings, deadlines, and personal crises, you become the observer on the shore.
Right.
That is incredibly powerful. And if you are going to dedicate your entire spiritual worldview to standing fearless on that shore, you don't just put that in a book.
No, you have to live it.
You carve it into stone. You build it into the very walls you pray in. Which brings us to the physical architecture of the temple itself.
Yeah, the architecture is a literal manifestation of that philosophy. Mahakaleshwar is one of the 12 sacred Jyotirlingas in India, but it holds a completely unique distinction.
Which is?
It is the only one that is Dakshinamurti.
Meaning it faces south. And in most traditions, don't temples usually face east, toward the rising sun, toward light and auspicious beginnings?
They do. But in this cosmology, south is the direction of Yama, the god of death.
Oh, I see.
By intentionally facing south, Mahakal is signaling an absolute unyielding dominion over death. You are walking into a space that is perpetually staring death right in the face, completely unafraid.
That is intense.
It is. Furthermore, the temple is constructed with 5 distinct tiers, reinforcing this journey. For example, on the 3rd floor, you have the Nagchandraswar shrine.
Right, where Shiva is depicted sitting on a massive bed of serpents.
Exactly.
But what struck me is how tightly controlled that space is. You can't just walk up there whenever you want.
No, you definitely can't.
The source notes that this specific floor is completely sealed off from the world. It only opens to the public once a single year, on the festival of Nag Panchami.
It makes the space incredibly sacred.
So the architecture dictates how and when you interact with these forces. But here's where it gets really interesting. It's not just the static buildings, it's the daily, visceral rituals.
The living traditions.
Yeah. Specifically, what happens every single morning at 4 a.m., the Bhasma Arti.
The Bhasma Arti, or the offering of ashes. It's arguably the most famous and striking ritual associated with Mahakal.
It's just visually stunning from what the reports describe.
It really is. It is a daily physical demonstration of that ultimate reality we just discussed. Because eventually, absolutely everything in the universe returns to ash.
The history of where this ash actually comes from is staggering. Today, they use specially prepared cow dung ash for the ritual.
Right. That's the modern practice.
But traditionally, the report tells us this ash was brought in fresh from a local funeral pyre.
Yeah, it's a heavy thought.
Think about that for a second. Literal human remains from the cremation grounds, the Shmashana, brought directly into the most sacred inner sanctum of the temple.
It symbolizes Shiva as the ultimate dweller of the cremation grounds. He is the entity that waits patiently at the very end of life.
Wow.
When everything else has been completely stripped away, when the physical body is gone and the ego is erased, Shiva is what remains in the ashes.
For you listening, imagine taking everything that keeps you awake at night, like your bank account balance, your resume, your mortgage, your social status, your daily anxieties, and watching it literally burn down to a handful of gray dust.
It really puts things in perspective.
The Bhasma Arti is the great, terrifying, beautiful equalizer. No matter how much money you make or how powerful you think you are, you end up exactly the same as everyone else.
And that concept of ultimate equality, the unavoidable realization that death and time conquer absolutely everything, has a very real, very strict consequence for people holding political power today.
Yeah, we can't forget about that.
It is not just a spiritual metaphor to reflect on. It actually dictates earthly law in Ujjain.
Which brings us full circle to that wild hook we started with, the no overstay taboo.
Exactly.
If you are a prime minister, a president, a chief minister, or a literal king, you are legally and spiritually forbidden from spending the night within the city limits of Ujjain.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the architecture, the ashes, the river, it makes perfect logical sense within the cosmology of the city.
Right, because there can only be one boss.
Exactly. Lord Mahakal is considered the only true Raja, the only true king of Ujjain. Earthly power is temporary. It turns to ash. His power is eternal.
I am genuinely curious how that plays out in reality. What happens if a modern politician gets a little arrogant, decides they don't believe in the ancient texts, and books a luxury hotel room in Ujjain for the night?
Well, according to deep-rooted tradition and documented local belief, any earthly ruler who stays the night is directly challenging the absolute cosmic sovereignty of Mahakal.
And the consequence?
The consequence is swift. They will rapidly lose their power, lose their position, or face severe misfortune.
So it's not worth the risk.
Not at all. The core idea is that political sovereignty simply cannot coexist with absolute cosmic sovereignty in the same physical space.
Right.
One has to bow to the other.
That completely flips the narrative of how we usually view powerful people. Spiritual authority permanently outranks political authority.
It absolutely does.
But the text contrasts this taboo with stories of rulers who actually understood the assignment, so to speak. It dives into these legendary historical figures like King Vikramaditya.
Yes, Vikramaditya is a perfect example of this. He was a legendary ruler, famed for his wisdom and justice.
Right.
But the texts emphasize that he didn't rule Ujjain as its absolute owner. He ruled entirely on behalf of Mahakal.
As a representative, basically.
Exactly. He approached the deity not as a rival king, but in total submission.
And the source points out that this submission is what actually granted him his legendary wisdom.
Yeah, there's another story about King Chandrasena, too.
Oh, right, the one who meditated so deeply.
Yes. He surrendered his royal ego so completely that Shiva actually intervened and turned the hearts of the king's invading enemies toward peace.
So submission brings stability, while arrogance brings a total loss of power. And they actively honor this dynamic today, don't they?
They do, in a very public way. The report describes the Mahakaleshwar during the holy month of Shravana.
What's that like?
It's this massive, vibrant procession where the idol of Mahakal himself is taken out of the temple and paraded through the streets of Ujjain.
Oh, wow.
The purpose? To oversee his subjects. It literally mirrors ancient royal traditions, treating the deity not just as a distant god, but as the active, ruling monarch inspecting his city.
Hearing all of this, it becomes clear that this is a living, breathing ecosystem. This isn't just ancient history trapped in a PDF manuscript.
No, it's very much alive.
Millions of people are engaging with this exact dynamic right now.
It is entirely alive today. I mean, you have the Simhasta Kumbh Mela happening every 12 years on the banks of that same Shipra River.
That draws millions of people, right?
Tens of millions of pilgrims, all drawn to that exact mathematical coordinate we talked about earlier.
That's incredible.
You also have the recently inaugurated Mahakal corridor. This is a massive modern architectural project that takes those ancient stone traditions and blends them with world-class storytelling.
It's like bridging the gap between eras.
Exactly. It brings the myths of the Shiva Purana to life for a whole new generation.
It's incredible to think that this is the exact same vicinity where the great classical poet Kalidasa gained his enlightenment centuries ago.
Yeah.
And people are still walking those same paths today, looking for the exact same clarity.
The continuity is really something else.
But I have to ask, so what does this all mean?
What do you mean?
For you, listening right now, why does a deep dive into an ancient temple in central India actually matter for your Tuesday morning commute or that stressful afternoon meeting you have coming up?
Ah, I see. Well, it matters because of the profound perspective it offers.
Right. It goes back to finding that state of Turiya we unpacked earlier.
Yes, standing on the bank of the river.
Exactly. By confronting the most terrifying realities of existence, the fact that time is running out, the finality of death, the reality that everything we desperately build will eventually turn to the ashes of the Bhasma Arti pleasure, you actually free yourself from the suffocating grip of your daily anxieties.
It's a great way to put it.
When you zoom out far enough to see the cosmic scale, the things that were stressing you out shrink down to their proper microscopic size. You learn to stand on the solid bank of the river and witness the flow of time, rather than letting the current drown you.
You realize that the forces of creation and destruction are natural, inevitable, and ultimately not something you need to be afraid of.
We started this deep dive looking at Ujjain as the cosmic crosshairs, a place where profound astronomical science and deep spirituality lock into place.
We did.
We explored the earth-shattering roar of Mahakal that obliterated the demon of ignorance. We examined the equalizing, humbling power of literal funeral ashes in the early morning light.
Such a powerful image.
And we saw the ultimate reality, that no president, no prime minister, no earthly king can outlast time.
No one can.
It's a dense, beautiful report. But the through line is incredibly clear. Time comes for us all, so we might as well learn how to peacefully witness it.
This raises an important question, though.
Yeah.
A final philosophical puzzle that the source text hints at, but leaves wide open for interpretation.
Oh, I love a good puzzle to end on. Lay it on us.
So we've spent this entire time discussing how Mahakal is the great time that consumes the universe, and how the ash represents the absolute end of everything.
Right.
But tucked away in the hidden gems of this report is a mention of a much smaller shrine within the temple complex, the Mahakaleshwar.
The shrine where Shiva is worshipped as the entity who exists before time itself even began.
Exactly. So if Mahakal is the consciousness that survives after the entire universe is reduced to ash and the clock of time has completely finally stopped,
Yeah.
what is the exact nature of the space left behind? If you could step completely outside the boundaries of time just for a single second, what would you actually see?
Wow. If time is gone, what is left? Why don't you just sit with that thought for a while today, see where it takes your mind. Thank you so much for joining us for this custom deep dive. Until next time, keep questioning the universe around you.